The Iowa starting quarterback for week 1 of 2025 may, in fact, not be the newest and most popular guy on campus. And Brian Ferentz doing what his offenses were incapable of doing at Iowa, going from coast to coast. Okay, here we are. Hawkeyes Live right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. We appreciate the super chat contributions as well. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App links are in the description section. Corey Brad, of course, right next to me from the Hawkeye of the Storm is the place to be. Iowa USC coming up on Wednesday night, correct?
Tuesday, tonight.
Oh, that's tonight.
Tonight. Men's basketball tonight, and then they play UCLA Friday night. And so, yeah, this is a big week for men's hoops. They're on a 2-game winning streak after a really embarrassing loss at Wisconsin. Came back from 15 down against Fred Hoiberg and the Huskers last Tuesday, and they made it out to LA safely, and hope they can play those games and be safe, everybody involved, and get home safely and maybe steal one, maybe steal two. UCLA's in a weird place. Mick Cronin, their head coach, went on a kind of a tangent and ripped his players in front of the public eye here the other day, and now he's getting some backlash. USC's riding high after a win at Illinois, blowout win at Illinois. So they're an intriguing one. Their numbers are not great in as far as analytics and KenPom ratings go at this point, mid-January. But Iowa, according to Joe Lunardi and Mike DeCourcy, they're back in the mix of the tournament. So way too early to really talk tournament, but should be a fun one tonight. Late post-game, 9:30 p.m. Central Time tip-off from, is it Westwood or is that UCLA?
Westwood is UCLA.
Okay.
Yes.
Whatever the other one is.
I think they're just in downtown Los Angeles.
Okay. Yeah.
So I understand.
Should be fun.
And also a reminder to Hawkeye fans that there are national championship games that are not played in women's basketball as well. There's one, let's say, next Monday, Ohio State and Notre Dame, and we have tons of coverage at the Voice of College Football. I am about to produce a preview and prediction video that's coming out. 10-0 in the college football playoffs and my predictions. Bill Bender, the Sporting News on live, 10 a.m. on Wednesday. We've got Brian Driscoll of Irish Breakdown live, 8 p.m. Eastern time Wednesday night. And then the Ohio State live show that'll be simulcasted all over. That's Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. You also see some links to some other content I've provided here and posted in recent days, matching up Ohio State Notre Dame historically, and then also the common opponents matchup. But once again, the preview and prediction is right there and ready to be produced. On the Iowa football front, of course, quarterback Mark Gronowski, it was announced just here in the last couple of days that he will need surgery that's coming up in June toward his shoulder area. That, of course, begs the question, Corey, how that affects the quarterback battle. We posted a link, actually, and posted a poll, I should say, on the front page of the channel here just a few minutes ago. So we'll check in on the results, but who will be the week 1 starter in 2025? And just your thoughts about how this may impact the quarterback battle and Gronowski's preparedness for fall camp.
Well, I know a lot of people have went on the defense because the initial reaction to this from many people out there was, oh my goodness, we got another Cade McNamara situation. And you knew that was coming when the announcement came from Iowa about the injury. Do I believe it's another Cade McNamara situation from an injury standpoint? No. It's not a serious knee injury. Sounds like shoulder, I think, although I don't think that was in the official release, but it sounds like a pretty routine cleanup. The problem, first of all, I'd like to know why that's not being done. Like, if it's routine, is it really 6-month recovery? I guess I would like to know exactly the nature of the procedure and why it would take so long if he's not going to resume until June. So that would be my one thing. The second thing is, a lot of people went on the defense and said, calm down, no big deal. It's not the same as Cade. And I don't think it's the same as Cade. However, I don't think it's no big deal. You're bringing a guy in that many people think is the starter next year. Okay. He's projected as the starter next year over Brendan Sullivan. Sullivan had a chance in the Music City Bowl to change that narrative, whether they went out and got Gronowski or not. Had Sullivan came out and played 4 really good quarters in the Music Bowl, it would be a totally different conversation we'd be having right now, Mark. It would be. I mean, if he looked really good against Mizzou, we'd be like, man, that's going to be hard even for Gronowski to come in and take that job for him. That's not what happened. He's really struggled in the second half. And so, frankly, I look at this situation as, advantage Sullivan if he sticks around, if he decides to stick it out. The graduate transfer rules are different. So he's able to hop in the portal if he wants to and explore other schools, even though the December window has closed. But if he sticks around, he does have an opportunity to gain some serious ground or to take some serious ground from Mark Gronowski. The idea that Gronowski not playing on an entirely new team, totally different offense, totally different players around him, the idea that that doesn't matter is foolery. I don't understand the people out there that want you to be convinced that it doesn't matter. I don't get that. Think about all those reps in spring that he's not getting with new assignee Sam Phillips, with all the young receivers, that even those that were here last year. A guy like Seth Anderson, who's already missed a lot of reps due to his own injury problems. Jacob Gill, who has a lot of experience with Brendan Sullivan, not much experience, not any experience with Gronowski. All these guys are new. They didn't bring, it'd be one thing if they had gotten the Wilde kid that ended up going to Northwestern, because he has experience in chemistry with Gronowski. They didn't get him. All these guys are new. It is impactful. We talked about this after the season ended. We said, hey, they could go after a quarterback after spring. But we all said, nah, that's not preferred, because you want to bring somebody in before spring that can have spring ball to work with these guys he's never worked with before. That's not happening now. Now, there's still an advantage of having a guy now as opposed to later. He's able to be around the team, learn the offense, get off-field chemistry, camaraderie with his teammates. But the premise of getting a guy in before spring so he can compete in the spring is now out the window with that news. And I don't know that you can't expect. Recruiting is what recruiting is. You can't expect Kirk Ferentz, nobody within the program publicly announced, we are recruiting Mark Gronowski, nor will they do that. So it's a very tricky situation, because I've heard from some fans that feel like they've been lied to in a sense, or not even lied to, but misled, because they had no idea Mark Gronowski had an injury. At the same time, whose obligation is it to tell fans that are donating to a collective that a guy that the school is going after is hurt? They don't get to choose where they can choose which sport the money is dedicated to, but they ultimately don't get to choose where the swarm puts this money and this money. So I can sympathize with people who say that. I can understand why they're disappointed. They maybe feel misled. I'm not saying you should feel misled. I'm just saying I can understand where somebody like that is coming from. And this is unfortunate. It is impactful. Hopefully it's not drastically impactful. And I guess the only positive that comes from this is you get Hank Brown more snaps. You get Jimmy Sullivan more snaps. Assuming Jackson Stratton and Brendan Sullivan are both here throughout spring, you get them more snaps, because there's only so many snaps to go around. I don't know how you go through spring ball with 6 quarterbacks. I don't know how do you do that? I don't understand. They have 6 quarterbacks on the roster now. I don't know how they carry that into fall camp. And if they do, there's just going to be a couple of guys that aren't getting any snaps. So if anything, it gives maybe younger guys an opportunity to feel like, hey, maybe I will get a little run here during spring ball. And I am excited to see what Jimmy Sullivan and Hank Brown can do because they're new to the program. But not having Gronowski play in the spring is a hit. I don't care how you spin it. That's my opinion.
No, I totally agree. And I came up with a couple examples. One would be JJ McCarthy. Many believe that the season that he took over for Cade McNamara was hindered and it actually became a quarterback battle. So let's understand the conclusion became that JJ McCarthy was a much better quarterback than Cade McNamara. He became a first round pick in the NFL draft, something that Cade McNamara could only dream about at this point. And JJ McCarthy was coming off an injury in the college football playoff that took him out of the spring, hampered him into fall camp, and then it set up a situation where McNamara and McCarthy basically dueled it out for the first 3 games. Then McCarthy took hold, took over the job. Joe Burrow at LSU, for how great he was as a senior, his junior year at LSU, good quarterback, really capable game manager type quarterback. But that was the season in which he didn't come on campus until sometime in June, didn't work with the team and his teammates until August. And if you look at LSU's season, the season before they won the national championship, slow start. Then he got better and better and better. They went on a run. He threw 5 touchdowns in the Peach Bowl that year against UCF. And then the rest is history. He vaulted into the next season, but they got off to a slow start. He didn't hit campus and wasn't able to practice with his team. Those are the first 2 examples that come to mind.
Yeah. So hopefully, like JJ, in the long run, this doesn't really hurt them. But at the same time, he's got 1 year. Sam Phillips has 1 year. So, I mean, we're going to talk about Sam Phillips. They added him. I think he's a steal. I think you got to give Tim Lester a lot of credit. I think the wide receiver room is developing faster than the quarterback room. And when I say developing, I'm not talking about what Tim Lester has necessarily done hands-on, because it's hard to do a lot of work hands-on, like gain a ton of traction in less than a year. Haven't even gotten a spring ball with your guys. Well, I guess, did they get a spring ball? When did he get hired? I don't remember when he got hired now. I guess they got a spring ball with Tim. Of course, they had to have had a spring ball with Tim. But it was about this time when they hired him last year. And, he didn't get Jacob Gill in until summer. And now he gets Sam Phillips in. I just think the addition of those 2 guys is huge. I just think those 2 guys, those guys are 1A and 1B right now, where I project the receiver room to be. And I said last night I recorded a video on Sam Phillips. I don't know who's third. Is it Reese Vanderzee? Is it Jarrett Bowie? Is it Seth Anderson? Is it Dayton Howard? KJ Parker is another guy to watch out for. But I'll tell you what, I look forward to seeing the battle for that other spot. And it's not that Sam Phillips and Jacob Gill are locked in, but everything I've heard about Sam Phillips is how hard of a worker he is. He's an experienced guy who brings in tons of production, albeit at a lesser level. But I project Sam Phillips and Jacob Gill to fit in together like 2 peas in a pod, and to have that level of maturity and talent. I think probably Sam is a little bit more talented. Jacob's got a little bit better size. But to have that combined, that's a great start for that room. And if they can stay healthy, I think the receivers have an opportunity to, really have a successful season.
Have you watched Sam Phillips?
Yeah. Yeah.
Chattanooga, they probably, based on my knowledge of their schedule, play maybe 1 big opponent per year.
Yeah. They played, if I'm not mistaken, played Tennessee this year. And they played, who did they play? Was it last year? And his numbers were pedestrian against the bigger opponents. He went off, he had a couple of games where he was pushing 200 receiving yards. He's got over 2,000 career receiving yards. He's got deceptive speed. really good hands. There was a stat out there, and who knows how accurate this is. I kind of doubt legitimacy of some of these stats, but there's a fact floating around that he didn't have a single drop this year. Now, I talked to Coach Patterson about this after I heard that, and I think we both can agree that if you got all the tape, you probably find a drop or two somewhere. But even the fact that you'd suggest that he didn't have a drop is an indicator that he's got pretty good hands.
The last time I've heard that statistic, it was attributed to Hunter Renfrow at Clemson.
Yeah, well, different to do it at the Big Ten level, but I don't care. I really don't care that much about height anymore. There's just too many really skilled receivers that have done it because they have excellent route running ability, excellent hands, and good speed. Rondale Moore comes to mind. Tyreek Hill comes to mind.
Hunter Renfrow.
Hunter Renfrow comes to mind. How about all the guys that Tim Lester worked with back at Western Michigan? Every single one of those guys was undersized, and they all ended up being second-round draft picks. So
Julian Edelman.
Oh, yeah.
Guys.
Go down the list. Who's the guy that used to play for Buffalo? What's the kid's name?
Stephon Diggs?
No, well, he's not very big. How big is Stephon Diggs?
Not very, but you're thinking of somebody else.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the little slot receiver. Kind of reminded me of Beasley, Cole Beasley. How big is he?
Yeah.
Where did he play college ball?
He played somewhere in the Big 12, I think.
SMU.
Oh, he played at SMU.
Used to be Big 12, right? SMU years ago.
Southwest Conference.
Southwest Conference, yeah.
Okay. That became the Big 12, in a sense, with a Big 8. This took me off track. But anyway, okay, Sam Phillips. Yeah, the height situation, as long as you have other receivers that are, I don't think you want a bunch of 5'8" guys running around the field. Like if you've got one guy like that.
Yeah, they don't have any other 5'8" guys running around.
Yeah.
I mean, you still got to be able to, first of all, you still got to be able to block. But smaller guys can block.
Ideally, you have a variety. You've got the prototypical slot guy. You've got the big-bodied guy that blocks guys out. You've got the burner.
And that's the question mark. I don't know. When I say I don't know who the third receiver is, I think it will. I would probably give Seth Anderson the nod, but he's not big. But how big is big? Like, how big do you need your prototypical X receiver to be? Does he need to be 6'3", 6'4"?
Yeah. He doesn't need to be, but that's ideal. We're speaking about ideals.
I don't know. I got so turned off by all the misses from Brian Ferentz and company because they went after all these big receivers and none of them panned out. Just none of them panned out, Mark. So I'm like, hey, let's go after guys with speed, route running ability, who have soft hands. And I think that's what they've done with Jacob. Jacob Gill's not real small, but he's probably 6 foot. He's not big. Dayton Howard is the biggest guy on the roster right now at that position. Maybe he ends up being the X guy.
Why am I remembering Seth Anderson from, as I look at his stats right now, 5 catches, 106 yards after 11 catches the season before with 1 touchdown? Why am I remembering Seth Anderson related to the Iowa State game? Did he made a big play or he had a big drop?
Yeah, he had a big drop this year. Last year,
yes,
he had
this year.
Okay, yeah. Last year in Ames, he had a big catch conversion. He's the one who caught that first touchdown in the first game of last season with Cade McNamara when Cade had first transferred. Remember, they go up against Utah State, and the first play from scrimmage, they go route with Seth, and he catches a touchdown pass, and the crowd's chanting, "We want Bama!" But anyways, yeah, he did have a drop or two, but he really has dealt with injuries. And that was my one thing when I recorded last night. I'm like, I would probably give him the nod, although he's not real big. I'd give him the nod to be the third guy if he stays healthy. If not, Jarrett Bowie's bigger, like probably 6'2", 6'3". Dayton Howard's like 6'5". They like Dayton Howard. So maybe it's him. I'm trying to think who else. Vanderzee is also pretty big. He's 6'4". So I just don't think Tim is the type of, I think he wants his best players out there regardless of size. And I understand situationally you can, you want to be balanced with that, but I'm excited to see what he can do with Phillips and Gill together, who both have very soft, sure hands and deceptive. Both of them, I think, have deceptive speed. Both of I'd like to know who wins in a foot race between Gill and Phillips, because I think they both have deceptive speed, and I don't think their lack of downfield attack this year had much to do with lack of perimeter speed from Jacob Gill. I just think you need more than one threat. And the other problem is they just had very little stability at quarterback, as you and I both know. So pass pro is a question because they lose some, but I think the passing game is primed to take a jump.
Vandersee was impressive
for a little while, for one game.
For one game.
Go look at his stats. Well, go look at his stats. Had 2 touchdowns against Illinois State week 1, and then didn't do anything against Iowa State. Rock 82 says Seth Anderson was out with an injury this year versus Iowa State. You might have been thinking of the Iowa State game the previous year. He had either had a big catch or a big drop. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this offense looks like in 24. I think there's lots of reason for optimism. I think their run game is in a really good place, especially with the return of Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker. So that's positive. And they're still, until I see it on the field, until I see a healthy group of quarterbacks pushing one another, I'm going to have questions there. And I was hopeful, like many fans were, that we would see, for instance, the open spring practice. We'd see Gronowski battle with Sullivan, battle with Jimmy, and we're not going to see the front runner there. So that's disappointing.
As noted in the chat, maybe I'm remembering the Michigan State game with Reese Vandersee, but I'm also remembering when they hit a couple of third down conversions against Ohio State in the first half. I think those were at least one, if not two of those were to Reese Vandersee.
Yeah, he came back after the injury, and well, no, I did. Let's see. When did the injury occur? Isn't this terrible? Why is it that you and I can both? I don't know about you. You probably remember everything, but I can go back and I can remember all these games from years ago. I struggle with recent years now. Do you do that? Did you ever get to a point in your life where you start to struggle with you can remember things 3 or 4 or 5 years ago?
And I don't think that was at the age of 28. I think this was at the
great,
20 years later.
I'm telling you, when I think back to 21, 22, 20, I get 23 and 20. Like I'm getting some of these years mixed up in my own brain. It's hard to believe that Cade was here 2 years. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Well, we're on show 180. In about 20 shows, that's 200. That's 4 years.
Yeah. Well,
we've been doing this a while.
We have. Yeah. Has the show improved at all over 180 years or 180 years, 180 weeks?
I doubt if I've improved. I'm pretty much the same guy. So I don't know. I think I've hit my ceiling.
So can we talk real quick about Sluka, this UNLV quarterback?
Absolutely.
He commits today to JMU, and the reports are that he had very little to any Power 4 interest. I'm not trying to rip any platform, but you and I highlighted 247's transfer portal rankings. Like that is right there, a microcosm of what we talked about. What is the point of those rankings? What is the point? Like if you have guys that are one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country available in the portal, and no Power 4 school wants you, then how can you argue he's one of the top quarterbacks in the portal? That makes no sense. And there's a lot of Nebraska fans that flocked to social media after Iowa got Gronowski and started trying to poke fun at Iowa fans for celebrating an FCS receiver that was, barely top 20 of the portal quarterbacks remaining. I don't know that you care at all about these rankings. I don't know who's making the rankings. To me, I look at this from the outside and I say there's a lot of money for someone who can come in and do a better job than some of these platforms are doing. I don't know if it's a combination of where their high school stock was with production at the school that they left. But like Sluka's a kid that he quit on his team mid-year, so that should hurt your stock right there. And it seems like everybody else saw that except some of these recruiting platforms.
Yeah. So obviously, we were looking for an Iowa quarterback at the time. This was before the Gronowski signing.
At least they have Carson Beck at the top.
And you and I dove into the rankings. I was looking for a quarterback, trying to find somebody, throw out some possibilities. And it immediately hit me that I thought that their rankings were horrendous. I should have posted a video on this. Now,
You should still do that, by the way.
Luke Romanoke has done nothing in college football.
Yeah,
Zero.
How is he in front of like Mendoza and go down? I mean, we did this
Malik
last week.
Murphy, Miller Moss, Connor Wegman, Jackson. I don't. Air Noland has done zero. He was a 5-star, went to Ohio State, sat on the bench, didn't throw a pass, did nothing.
Like, and all these kids, so it's hard because if you want to start making the argument for a guy like Gronowski, the naysayers will just bring up the fact that, well, he did it at South Dakota State, so it doesn't mean anything. He's going to have to prove it on the field, right? But, I mean, all that production at South Dakota State, he won the equivalent of the Heisman Trophy at that level. And he's behind all these guys who really haven't played in college. How can you justify that? How can you justify who's Ricky Collins? Who is that?
Ricky Collins was originally a Purdue commit. Obviously, based on this ranking, he was a very high 4-star, went to LSU, did nothing there, didn't play, didn't come close to playing, and now he's going to Syracuse to replace Kyle McCord, possibly. I doubt if he's got the job, but yeah, he's done nothing.
He's done nothing.
Malachi Singleton, nothing. Dylan Lonergan, nothing.
I don't know who any of these people are. I mean,
well, I know the names just from recruiting. Billy Edwards.
Yeah. But I mean, I put Billy Edwards in front of all the guys that you just named.
Sure,
and there's Mark Gronowski way down.
Starting quarterback at Maryland.
Basically, these sites, I don't know that they've transformed enough with the day and age of the transfer portal and recruiting via the portal. And I don't think they weigh experience, production at their previous homes. And those things matter.
Because Anthony Calandria, who is replacing, I guess, one quarterback in between Sluka at UNLV, pretty good quarterback at Virginia. Starting quarterback the last 2 years there. Ashton Daniels, starting quarterback at Stanford. Not bad, not great, but Malachi Nelson, now he's never done anything. Devin Brown, a little bit of mop-up duty. Preston Stone, who threw 28 touchdowns in the American Conference.
Way too low. Can I ask, what's going on with Devin Brown at Ohio State? Is he just waiting out the playoff? Is that what's going on?
It's interesting, isn't it? I guess he is.
Well, I mean, he's stuck with the team. He did what I thought Bo Prabula could have done, but he missed out on using December. I mean, does he have I don't believe he has a no contact tag. I haven't read that, but I mean, does he have? There was talk that maybe Syracuse would go after him, but Syracuse landed. Who's the other kid you said Syracuse landed? The guy from LSU.
No. Yes.
So I don't know. I'll be interested to see. I mean, Iowa was a potential home for someone like Devin Brown, but there ain't nobody left besides Devin Brown. Like guys that are actually proven. I don't know. Some of these schools that are still in need of a quarterback, they're probably going to have to wait till post-spring.
Yeah, then I don't know what's going to happen there in regards to who else is going to be available.
There's Hank Brown.
There he is.
Alex Orji. Look at how low he is. Was he that bad at Michigan?
Yeah, he can't throw the ball.
Well, then why was he recruited?
That's all he does.
Why was he recruited?
Throw a football.
Okay.
Braden Locke went to Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they got J.J. Cole ranked ahead of Braden Locke. J.J. Cole never played at Iowa State. He's now going to App State. He's a better prospect than Braden Locke? I mean, that's a perfect example of the stupidity. Stupidity. J.J. Cole has done nothing. He has done nothing. He's 6'7". He's a statue who has done nothing at the college level.
I know Tyler Van Dyke has been a disappointment, but in 2021, he had 8 games that were great. Then he got hurt, bad offensive line, bad decision making. So it was partially him, but he was off to an okay start at Wisconsin last year before he got hurt.
He could put up a lot of yards at SMU because that offense, they throw the ball.
Yeah, he can sling it. He just throws too many to the other guys.
I mean, I think Devin Brown ought to go to Syracuse if he's got an opportunity. With what McCord did this year at Syracuse, I would think that would be a quarterback's dream. He gonna get drafted, isn't he? I mean, he's got to be. I don't know. He's good. You think he's better than Will Howard?
That is the the question that's being bantied about.
I don't know why you.
It's close.
I just think it's. Don't you feel that's odd? A little bit different. Odd. Why did they give up? Why'd they give up on him?
Apparently, he wanted to be guaranteed the job.
Okay, that's all it was. I didn't know that's all it was, but man, a guy can sling it, and
he set the ACC passing record with almost 4,800 yards, and he did it in 2 less games than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, he's if I'm a NFL team, I'm carefully combing through that tape at Syracuse because he may drop a little lower than you'd think just because of where he played.
Yeah. Nobody with a brain ever thought that Kyle McCord could not throw a football. Erica, we appreciate you being here. Let's see what you got for us here. Those who think that MG
Gronowski
winning the equivalent of the FCS Heisman means nothing are probably Nebraska or Iowa State fans. They came out in mass on Twitter.
What I think should be more exciting to Iowa fans than anything is not what this is going to sound really almost contradictory, not what he did do stat-wise at South Dakota State. It's what he didn't do. And I say that because he has not been placed in a position. They have been so successful that he hasn't been placed in a position to have to throw a lot. Now, you don't want him to have to throw a lot at Iowa, but just as much as the people who say, well, he may not pan out at the next level, that's possible, sure. Is it also possible he's a lot better, that he ends up coming to Iowa and because of increased opportunity and need for them to get that passing game going, he may be a lot better than people think, people realize. And that's exciting. That should be exciting because he's already done all the things you want a guy like that to do. That's why he's won these awards, and part of the reason South Dakota State's been so successful as a team since he's been there. So I think that's the other way to look at this glass half full. Trojan Fight doesn't know who MG is. Mark Gronowski. So
I didn't either. I should have, you know how you can read ahead while you're reading. That's what I should have done. I would have known, of course. But this is one thing I enjoy about college football, college athletics in particular, the tribal nature. And I say this in all sincerity. I'm not being sarcastic and certainly not making fun of Erica. I'm being truthful that I enjoy the rivalry and the social media angst as long as it stays in check of her defending, of course, the Iowa position here.
By the way, I just want to tell you, Aiden in the chat says, will the surgery impact the season? I think we talked about that at the outset. It shouldn't directly impact the season, but to me, if you're not getting spring ball with your new teammates, it does impact the season. And he's going to have to spend a lot of time during summer building that on-field chemistry. Now, some guys, it can be relatively seamless, right, Mark? And that's why I say having the experience of a guy like Jacob Gill and Sam Phillips, it's totally different than what Cade McNamara walked into 2 years ago. They had a lot of inexperienced receivers, plus Nico Ragaini was on that team. But it was a lot of young players. Now you've got old guys that should be able to adjust and be plug-and-play dudes for your experienced quarterback. They're pretty old on offense, Mark. Like, as a whole now, they're old. They are old almost everywhere at the core. Now, they got some young pieces, but they're experienced. Their top two receivers, from my vantage point, they're experienced with their top two running backs, and Jazz Patterson, Kamari Moulton. Those guys are what, juniors now? Are they seniors? Seniors, right? I think they're fourth-year guys, third or fourth-year guys. I have to look. And then tight end, Addison Stringo's had plenty of time. Zach Ortworth's in his third year. And then you got Gronowski and Sullivan, who's in his final year.
I know that you were talking about going into this season, how old the offensive line was.
Yes. So they're not as old.
About anyone who could have moved on actually ended up staying.
Yeah, they're not as old up front, but anybody that could return this year returned. In Logan Jones, Jennings Dunker, they'll get back. We've talked about this, but they'll get back Cade Peeper, who played a decent amount. Bo Stevens should anchor one of those other guard spots. So they're basically have two young pieces, unless they get somebody in the portal. It sounds like they're still looking for a DB potentially. I think they need a DB, just for at a very minimum, an experienced insurance policy, because I don't. How confident can you be in the three guys that rotated at the spot opposite Jamari Harris last year, and then you add a guy like Jalen Watson into the mix? We'll see. And then it sounds like one name that surfaced recently that is worth bringing up, and someone I didn't expect to be bringing up, is Rashad Godfrey. Rashad Godfrey Jr., who sounds like he's working more at corner. I didn't see him as a corner when he first committed. He's a real shy kid from, I think it's Seffner, Florida. But he's gained some ground at corner, it sounds like. And so he may end up being in the mix. And we all know Phil Parker's not afraid to play young guys. So, cornerback remains a position of need. And I think after that, it's got to be O-line, specifically left tackle. And if they don't get somebody there, then it's going to have to be a young player that we haven't seen. Lots of bodies, lots of big tackles out there in the room. Cale Crow, Jack Dotzler, Cannon Leonard, Trevor Lauk. So somebody there is going to have to emerge. Thank you, Thor. Jazz is a redshirt junior, Moulton redshirt sophomore. So one guy's in year 4 and one guy's in year 3. That's experience. And they played a lot to this point. It's not like they've been riding the bench.
Please like the video and subscribe. The reason you do that is you simply support the channel. And YouTube likes to run their analytics and see a lot of likes and a lot of comments. And what happens is basically when you watch one of Corey's videos or you watch one of his live streams or our live streams here, and you engage in the content, you engage in the live stream or in the video. And what I mean by that is you like it, you comment, you do all those good things, is that YouTube takes note of that, oh, people are responding to this video. Therefore, we're not just going to show it to Corey's or Mark's core audience. We're going to push it out into traffic. And that's when videos and live streams go viral. So please hit the like button and subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. And you should be subscribed at From the Hawkeye of the Storm as well.
By the way, I think there's big things coming here From the Hawkeye of the Storm. I just think there are big things coming, Mark.
Why? I've anticipated that since day one.
I'm plugging in my own brand as well. Big things coming over there.
Of course. And are you going to give us some kind of hint or something?
No, I just think, no, I'm not. But I do think that this is our first, this is our first full year where we've had our 3 expert analysts on for the entirety of the season. Now, Gary Close isn't going to be with us when he's out in South. Like tonight, Gary's not going to be with me. He's out in South Carolina. The game starts at 10:30 his time. He'd be up at 12:30 p.m., 12:30 a.m.
Yeah. That's like a normal night for me.
Gary's retired, Mark. You are not. You give it 20 more years and see what you say, but maybe 15. So, but the fact that we've had all 3 of these great personalities on throughout the year, and we're going to get back into interview mode. We haven't had as many exclusive interviews here of late, but we're getting beaten down the door that time of year where people want to hear from the people that have not yet taken the field. Iowa basketball's had a couple of really impressive wins, I think, on the recruiting trail that make you wonder about Fran and where he what his outlook is. They got a kid transfer from Miami, Florida the other day who they recruited heavily out of high school, former 4-star recruit. And they got him to commit the other day. And they've had a lot of other athletic pieces, which is athleticism has been a need for that program for quite some time. So I just think there's exciting things on the horizon, and we're just working with great people for the post-game shows. And, this is a busy time of year. It doesn't, just because we're at a football season, it just gets busier with the Big Ten schedule. Once you hit men's and women's hoops, Big Ten hoops, it's like bang, 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 3 to 4 post-game shows a week. Plus there's all this portal stuff that never stops. And hey, spring practice, I don't know when the first day is, but it's got to be like 2 months away, right?
Sure.
Some schools start in February?
They do.
That's nuts. Don't you think that's nuts? When you think
it's
about
not spring, for one thing.
Well, that's part of it, but I'm saying
standpoint.
we have a national championship on the 20th day of January. And literally 10 days later is the first day of a month that holds spring practices for either one of these teams. Notre Dame, they don't start in February, do they?
No, they don't.
How could you do that? How could you do that?
For some reason, Missouri always has early spring practice.
That's strange.
They always have like a mid-March spring game.
That's nuts. That's nuts.
Yeah.
So you're playing, I'm assuming all their spring practice is indoors? Because why would you want to practice in February? Columbia's not that far south.
No.
No.
But yeah, April's the big month, of course, for spring games. March is the bulk of the spring practice for most of these teams, and then we get into April. But everyone's been alerted to 2025 being a huge year from the Hawkeye of the Storm.
That's right. So
it's a big deal already. So I can only imagine what it's going to become.
Buy stock now.
I'm invested already. So I guess I'll just invest some more. You basically do have the largest independent platform for Iowa athletics, correct?
Independent platform? What does that mean?
You're independent of any type of company.
Probably.
I
don't know.
Else?
Well, I'm trying to think. I don't know. There's some other guys I know. I don't know him personally. I don't know that we've ever met, but Pat Hardy used to be with the Des Moines Register, I think, years ago. I think he runs his own site still. And there's a couple other websites that are ran by a couple of people, so I put myself on a pedestal in that regard. But as far as the YouTube platform, I'm proud of the platform. And like I say, I got to give credit to the people who have helped make it possible. But I don't know where else people would go if you're on YouTube. I'm sure there's plenty of people, Mark, that don't like me but watch the channel because it's getting recommended, which is great. I love it. The fact that we've been able to build it into the biggest platform on YouTube. But I got a lot of people to thank for that. So including the people that watch.
If there is somebody out there who doesn't get derogatory comments or they're liked by everyone, they're probably not doing this right.
That's true.
So
you get ripped a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
I'm always there for it, Mark. I'm always there for it. I get ripped all the time. All the time. I had a guy the other day on YouTube. I had a guy, and I involve myself in the comments sometimes too much. But I had a guy that said something along the lines of, this women's team isn't worth watching. They're, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, well, nobody asked you to be here. Watch them. Watch this. Nothing. And he responded in all caps. Okay, fine. I'm unsubscribing. Hasta la vista, whatever. And I said, okay, peace out. And then what did he do? 10 minutes later, that's a cop-out, Corey. Don't you care? And I'm like, come on, man. Like, just, what are these people? They literally have nothing else better to do in life than to just moan about a team's loss. I don't get that, but I get ripped all the time. Thank you, David, for acknowledging that in the chat.
This has become one of my favorite responses. I did this 2 or 3 weeks ago on a Notre Dame live stream, and I did it just a couple days ago in the comments section of a video when somebody said, "This video sucks, it's worthless," or something. And I was getting the same response from a couple people, or one person in particular during a Notre Dame live stream a couple weeks ago. I said, "Why would you waste your time being here? Will you please never watch another video of mine? I do not want to see your name anywhere in the comments section.
Yeah.
Bye. Do yourself a favor. Do me a favor. Leave. Bye.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't watch ever again. Please
Right.
never watch." Now, there's somebody, I will not name names, but somebody as part of our network that I screenshot those to, and they get a little bit incensed because they're like, "You're driving away viewers. You're driving. Why would you tell people to never come back?" I'm like, I don't care.
Some people would say
Go.
that's bad business.
Why?
Some people would say that's bad business, but here's the bottom line. If somebody doesn't want to be here, it's just like a football team. Like, if someone on the Iowa football team doesn't want to be there, it's not Kirk's job, in my opinion, to beg him to stay. It's Kirk's job to make the program as a whole as healthy as possible. But if somebody really doesn't want to be there because they don't feel like it's for them, see you later. You're bringing it down more than you're helping. So,
Yeah. Two quick notes here because we're running out of time, but I wanted to give some recognition, of course, to Reese Dakin as freshman All-American. And Iowa's fourth since 2020. I see a list of Connor Colby, Luther Van Ness, and Torrey Taylor.
Lucas Van Ness, yeah.
Lucas Van Ness.
Yeah,
Did I
that
say
sounded
Luther?
Luther
Lucas
Van
Van
Der.
Ness.
Yeah, a phenomenal award for a guy who was replacing a phenomenal punter in Torrey Taylor. And I don't think we talked when Caden Weegan got return specialist of the year. He won that award. That's think about those two guys. You got one guy that ends up being freshman All-American in Reese Dakin. You have another guy who wins return specialist of the year in Caden Weegan. Think about the guys those two replaced. One replaced Cooper DeJean and the other replaced Torrey Taylor. Those are some big shoes to fill. And granted, those are national awards. They're not supposed to be, weighing them against their predecessors. But, I mean, Caden Weegan was phenomenal. And you could argue he's a better return specialist than Cooper DeJean in the sense that he did both kickoffs and punts, and they're two very different skills. Reese Dakin has a lot more time to grow, but man, you've got just every year we heap praise on LeVar Woods. He absolutely deserves it. I mean, they have continued to recruit great return specialists, kickers, punters. Drew Stevens, I mean, I think he probably is. I don't know who else. Like, is there somebody else nationally? I don't know how much you know the kicking scene, but he's got to be one of the 2 or 3 favorites to win Kicker of the Year next year. He didn't win it this year. I don't know who won that award this season, but I mean, he was like 14-17, wasn't he? Which really isn't that many. Maybe, do you have more kicks than that?
Well, Corey, first of all, you seem surprised that I would know the kicking scene. That's what I'm paid to do. I'm supposed to know all the scenes, but in terms of who's coming back, that I can't speak to. Cannot speak to.
He was this year. He was 20 of 23. 20 of 23 for 87%, and I believe his only misses were from 50 plus. But he didn't miss a kick inside 50. I mean, and he was perfect. He was 40 of 40 on extra points, and I don't know how many kicks he had returned. Missouri returned a couple of kicks that made 0 sense in that Music City Bowl, and they got hurt for it. They got, taken down inside the 10 on at least one, and taken down inside the 15, I think, on the other. And Drew's back. I mean, that special teams unit with Caden Weegan, who's announced he's coming back, Drew coming back, Reese Dakin coming back. He might be the best special teams unit in the conference again. And I don't know that they were that this year, but once again, they were phenomenal. And the longer they can hold on to LeVar Woods, the better.
I may upset you by letting you know, although I did not have a choice in the matter, that I have an All-American ballot from the Football Writers Association of America.
Okay.
And I did not vote for Drew Stevens, but I do not recall him being one of the 3 finalists that I could vote for. I voted for the Michigan kicker,
Okay.
Dominic Zabata.
Aren't those like? Isn't that's got to be something like if you're vote? I'm not saying you would do this, but that's pretty easy to vote because you just. I mean, stats tell the story, don't they?
For a kicker. Yeah.
I mean, for a kicker. So that's what I'm saying. What's this Zabata kid? What's his name?
So Dominic Zabata. I basically go through 3 criteria. Number 1 would be what is just the flat out field goal percentage made, of course. The Florida State kicker, by the way, did not miss a kick this year. And then I go distance. I look, okay, if somebody's, as you mentioned, 20 of 23, but they missed 3 and they're all plus 50, that's different than missing a bunch of 32 yarders. And then number 3, I go to each game to determine, did this kicker, was he in a situation where he had to make a field goal to tie a game, win a game late? What were the pressure kicks that he attempted? That's my basic 3 criteria.
Zavada did miss an extra point this year, Mark. And he kicked less than Drew, but he had just 1 miss. Drew was asked to kick a number of 50-plus yard field goals, and that's a testament to the confidence level that the staff has in him. And a couple of his misses were – one was controversial. It went over the upright. It was like a 50 – remember that one? It was like 53 yards, and it went straight over the upright, and they called it no good. It was very close because the rule is it's got to be completely inside that imaginary upright for it to be good. And then he had, I think, another one that doinked and missed. So, yeah, he's probably like the quietest. I said earlier in the month that he may be the best returning player on this team at his individual position. I don't know like who's above him. Honestly, like their 3 main specialists might be the best players on the team at their individual positions because Caden Weegen's the best return. The votes say he's the best return specialist in the country. Reese Dakin is one of the best punters in the country. He's freshman All-American. So you'd think he's pretty high on Iowa's list. And same with Drew Stevens. I'm trying to think of who else would even be in that conversation on either side of the ball with Jay Higgins gone and Caleb Johnson gone. Maybe, boy, I don't even know.
The corner's gone too, right? Jamari Harris.
He's gone. Who would even be in that conversation? It would be interesting right now to rank Iowa football players, like grade them, rank them right now. Can we rank them right now?
You're the guy to do it.
I'll do that right now.
Those videos should come out.
Yeah.
You should rank the top 10, 20 Iowa football players.
I tell you, if I did that,
I should be giving you content ideas. You know what else you should do? You should rank or give like a top 5 true freshmen, incoming freshmen.
Yeah.
How many did they gain through the transfer portal? There may not be enough to do like a top 5 that's legitimate.
They haven't even gotten 5.
Well,
gotten 5, I think.
Yeah, you should do all those.
Well, you could just still rank the 5. I mean,
and rank their players. Yes, you should rank their players. And as Erica is saying here, and thank you so much for the contribution, Erica, is Iowa special teams, you have to ask. Well, I got to say, if you're talking historically, I don't think anybody's prepared even outside of Corey and myself to give that answer historically. But right now, yes.
Yeah. And Andrew, thank you. Great comment. And that would have been Logan Jones has to be in the conversation. So he would be one of them. I think you'd have to probably give Jennings Dunker a nod somewhere in your top 10, maybe top 5.
I'm going to take the idea I just gave you, but I'm going to apply it across the nation. I'm going to start doing that.
Just ranking because the NFL does that top 100 countdown. I don't even know who does that, but they rank their top 100 NFL players.
Network.
What did I say? NFL? Yeah, NFL Network. Yeah. Why couldn't you just do a top 100 college football and highlight a different player every day on your national network? Would people like that, you think?
They might. We'll find out. Maybe. I don't know
It's
if I'll
hard to
follow
know.
through on it, but
Yeah.
coming up soon, folks, will be, of course, after the national championship game, my top 25 that actually makes sense, final edition for the season, and all the power rankings for all the conferences. And Corey's going to love my conference rankings that you then can debate with the real MVP, but my conference rankings. All right. Lastly, I want to get your take because I did tease it at the top that, and I did some homework here. Fresno State's offense was 106th in the nation last year, 91st in yards per play. The pass offense, number 46, number 49 in pass efficiency. New tight ends coach, new offensive assistant, one Mr. Brian Ferentz.
So is it official that he's tight ends coach? Is that officially out there?
I saw that in an article.
I haven't. I assumed that it was either O-line or tight ends, but I didn't know that. I guess I'm out of touch with the whole Brian thing. I knew it, the initial report that he was being hired as a top offensive assistant, but yeah, I mean, that's where he belongs. He belongs as a position coach. I think he's really going to have to earn his goal to get back into being a coordinator somewhere. Maybe he could drop down a couple of levels and be a coordinator right now, but I think he's taken the right approach so far. Go learn something about the offensive passing game at Maryland. Hopefully he did. And now go back and play in your wheelhouse, earn it, and in your wheelhouse at Fresno State. And I believe Fresno State's new head coach is the ex-USC linebackers coach who was the head coach at North Dakota State. Matt Entz, is that right?
Yes.
So Entz has a connection to Iowa. He and Kirk are good friends, as I understand it. And I believe that obviously people don't. Tim Polasek just won a national title with North Dakota State. He's a former Iowa offensive line coach. He then went to Wyoming and now is at North Dakota State. There's all those connections between the two institutions, but I don't know what type of offense Fresno State runs, but they're not the ones that got. No, that's someone else. Who hired who hired the offensive coordinator from UNLV? The go-go offense.
Oh, yes.
Who run that?
Who did hire
Who was
him?
it? Who was it?
I don't remember.
Somebody in the chat will remember. It's not Fresno State, right? He wouldn't have went from UNLV to Fresno State.
No, he went to a Power 5 school.
Okay. So yeah, Iowa is such a special place because of tight end involvement. There's not a better place to earn your mark as a tight ends coach than Iowa. It's like being a quarterback's coach at Ohio State or a wide receivers coach at Ohio State.
Absolutely. It's been impressive, no doubt.
And that's quite a change. You go from Iowa to Maryland, to College Park, and then out to Fresno. If anybody's been to Fresno, California, that's I would not want to live in Fresno.
Okay. I know nothing about it. I've only visited Southern California many, many times, but never Northern California.
Sac State. So he's the head coach. The old go-go guy is the head coach at Sacramento State. Are they making a jump to FBS? Why do I keep hearing about them?
Sacramento State, whoever they hired must have only been there one season because the Sacramento State coach is left to take over for David Shaw, Troy Taylor at Stanford, who's only been the coach for 2 years. So whoever they replaced was only there 2 years and they fired him.
Interesting.
And Troy Taylor had a remarkable record at Sacramento State. So they went from being some big power, he was like 30-4 or something crazy like that, to firing his predecessor or successor. All right, folks, we do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And again, Iowa USC post tonight with Corey and a lot of national championship previews on the main channel with me. Next up is Bill Bender Sporting News, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, live on Wednesday morning. But tonight it's Corey with USC and Iowa postgame. Corey, as always, appreciate you doing this, and we will be back here next Tuesday.
Thanks, Mark.